Good evening. How are you? This is a stand-in talk because I couldn't get away from the office before it was dark. So here I am. And there are a couple of stories I thought are worth mentioning. One is a financial story. It is the failure of the First Republic Bank. That bank is no longer because as of today, although organized before today, JP Morgan Chase bought $100 billion plus in deposits. Now, why did they do that? This is similar to the Silicon Valley Bank failure, which also occurred in March. And I say also because the turn of affairs in March against First Republic Bank was quite alarming. For example, the value went from December last year at about $160 billion. We're not talking about your or my account, or maybe it is yours, but it sure ain't mine. And its value by March was $104 billion. That's a bloodletting. That's a lot of money. And here's the thing. They had $3.2 trillion worth of assets. And the bank rules are that if you have more than 50 billion, you're supposed to have a resolution plan, meaning a plan by which you can keep the bank going. Now, there was a fatal flaw here because based on their holdings and their loans and so forth, they were earning 3%. But then they were trying to buy more funds and they were paying 5%. By the third grade, a kid could figure out 3% is less than 5%. So you're earning 3% and you're buying at 5%. That's a long way down the hill, I think. So they lost 40% of their depositors. And why would they do that? Well, the depositors are upset because something like the Silicon Valley Bank, they have deposits in excess of $250,000, and $250,000 is all that Silicon Valley covers. Although the FDIC takes our money and helps these banks survive, and you and I wouldn't get away with that. But you see, this is one of those inequities, one of these things about capitalism. We can't allow the bank to fail. I mean, it's ironic that Trump has made a living having greater debt than the bank could actually close on without destroying their own bank. So this is a long way from the beautiful story that you usually see around Christmas time of Jimmy Stewart. It's a Wonderful Life. And there's deceit there in that they're withholding the funds to keep the bank working. And surprising in a way that Jimmy Stewart actually thought about killing himself in that situation, which wasn't a far cry from what has happened in other financial crises. And there's a kind of deus ex machina thing, which is a divine intervention that gives him courage so that the townspeople take care of him. This is a community working with a bank, but the banks we're talking about, they fail because they do reckless things. They don't plan right, but they know they're going to be caught by the government and saved. And that's wrong because you and I are the ones who pay for this, and that's not right. And what we're doing is we're creating a monopoly of very large banks. What happens when they fail? So there are a lot of remedies that were proposed in legislation that weren't followed, and some could say the regulators are in part responsible for this. So are we going to have a Jimmy Stewart moment across the country? There are so many things that we handle carelessly. Anything is possible, but you would hope that after these two banks failed and Signature Bank failed, that we get our act together, because in a short period of time we have these banks failing and we're not paying attention to them. So that's one thing that has me going. The other is the kind of stuff I usually talk about in my wheelhouse, if you will, and it's about the way Tacopina is conducting his defense of Trump, the alleged rapist who then defamed the woman by saying she was lying when she said it happened. And she's done very well on the witness stand and answered a lot of the tropes about women going back years and years. And that is to say that women would remain silent about this, and those who did speak, particularly long before the Me Too movement when this happened, when they did speak, they found their whole lives turned upside down. They lost jobs, they lost their reputation. They were run out of town there was a scarlet mark put on their forehead. So, but she's dealing with all that, and it's ironic to me. And I'm not in the courtroom, so I can't hear it, but I do read the reports from the courtroom, and they seem to be balanced. And there are two things about them. One, it seems to me that Tacopina is going at her to please what Trump would like his lawyer to do, and I'm not sure he's doing what he needs to do if he was legitimately impeaching this witness. I'm not sure if he tried it differently, he wouldn't do better. Not that I'm cheering him on to win. I think he should lose, and I think what's going to happen is that her testimony and the fact that at the time she was upset about it will be corroborated by two people she told that about the time. And it will be helpful to show that the path that Trump follows, he acts similarly, both in her situation and the situation of two other women. There'll also be experts who talk on behalf of the victim here, the rape victim. There'll also be experts that talk about how does a woman respond to a rape. And I think across the spectrum, people in America, when they are humiliated and embarrassed by an act like this, would rather keep a secret and suffer it in silence than to come out and be forward about it. We've seen it in these church cases. People are reluctant to come forward in rape cases and so on. And there have been support groups that have been helpful to get at the truth. The second thing that's interesting to me, which I think is a dangerous calculation by Tacopina, and I think he's doing it for social media rather than for what will happen in court, is he wrote a motion attacking the court's judgments, curbing back the way Tacopina, was conducting his cross-examination. And Tacopina says, there, you prevented us from defending the case. Now, let's analyze the whole case. I've gone over the evidence a little bit. The whole case boils down to the following. If Trump is not appearing, then you have to convince a jury that the victim of this crime is making it all up, that it's unbelievable. And what she's put in place, and her lawyers have put in place, it seems to me, are sound grounding in what an ordinary person would be suffering were they humiliated this way. I mean, would you scream at a person that you knew was physically larger than you and dangerous because he just raped you? And the woman answered directly that I was raped. I didn't scream because I was raped, but I was raped. And that is the story that if a jury wraps its mind around, but not seeing the jury, not seeing how they react, not seeing what kind of messages the judge, by whatever reaction, is sending to the jury. It would be a tragedy if this case did not result in a conviction for a host of reasons, one of which is that this is Trump's signature. This is who he is. This is what he does. And we need an accounting for him at every level of his terrible conduct to humans, to people, to the frame of reference that is the law and proper demeanor. And we don't have that. It's amazing how many people in America these days don't recoil from a man like this, don't shun him, don't seek to have him prosecuted, not just civilly but criminally. But those are the two things I'm talking about today. So a run on the banks, scary, a problem. Hopefully the FDIC and other of our financial institutions will take care of it. I'm talking about government and private. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the trial unfolds, the rape trial. And I'm very hopeful it's gonna unfold the way it should. So I'm glad to be with you to say good evening, and I hope to be out on the road tomorrow because I think I have more order to my schedule tomorrow. But thank you for paying attention and for your comments. It's very helpful to me, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.